It's time to accelerate. Hi, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Join me as I host conversations with the leading experts in sales, marketing, sales automation, sales process, leadership, management, training, coaching, any resource that I believe to help you accelerate the growth of your sales, your business, and most importantly, you. Hello, and welcome to Accelerate. I am excited to talk with my guest today. Joining me is Anthony Caliendo. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Sales Assassin, Master Your Black Belt in Sales. Anthony, welcome to Accelerate.
Hey, how are you, Andy? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. So take a minute, please. Introduce yourself. Tell us how you got your start in sales.
Well, my name's Anthony Caliendo, and I started sales probably at around 18 years old, believe it or not, in the gym business. Started in Chicago at the Chicago Health Club and sold gym memberships. Had a lot of success. I realized at that time that sales was in my blood.
Now, how are you selling the gym memberships? Are people coming in? Or are you making phone calls? How are you doing that?
Well, a little bit of everything. We would basically get leads, and people would come in the door, and they would do a lot of advertising back with the Chicago Health Clubs, and then we would go out and market ourselves too. No matter where I was always talking about health and fitness at an early age. At 19 years old, I became so good at sales that one of the supervisors approached me and said, you're beating a lot of my talented people, and you're so young. I'm going to give you an opportunity to manage a Chicago Health Club. Now, I was 19 at the time. So they put me in the worst area you can imagine. If anybody is from Chicago, they put me on 95th Street between Ashland and Western in one of the roughest neighborhoods there is in Chicago. And I was able to have unbelievable success taking that gym and turning it around and getting new equipment. It was a great story. It really was something that propelled me to what I am today, having such a challenge at 19. But I bought my first house at 19 years old. I bought a $72,000 house.
Those were the days.
Those were the days, And out of high school, I think my first year, I was able to make almost $60,000 a year without a college education. And just built it up from there. Became a supervisor, managed many health clubs.
Well, then you got the opportunity to go work for the Terminator, the Arnold.
I did. What happened was Chicago Health Clubs were bought out by Bally, and Bally came in and bought them out. And the vice president of the company, which was really my mentor, Al Phillips, he basically, out of all the managers, there was close to 60 managers. We had over 25 health clubs. And he basically asked me to come with him and join him to build a chain of gyms himself with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who took over the franchise from Joe Gold, and had a lot of success. I mean, I built a gym in Chicago on Lakeshore Drive in Montrose, and we enrolled more people than we even thought. We enrolled close to 50% more people than we even projected before the gym opened. And it was just an amazing thing, got to meet Arnold, got to go to the Arnold Schwarzenegger Classic every year. I got to sit at the dinner table with him. He used to call me Little Man, so that was kind of funny.
He's not real tall himself, though, right?
Yeah, but I'm 5'5", so.
Oh, okay. So there we go, right?
There you go, so he used to call me Little Man. But, had a lot of fun with it. I mean, I was able to really stay in a position where I was able to grow each and every year and challenge myself to constantly keep growing in sales. I built this second gym across from the Mercantile Exchange in Chicago, right on the Chicago River on Jackson. Right. And it was there I got recruited into Wall Street. Basically guys telling me, why are you selling gym memberships? Why don't you come sell stock? So that's how I became a stockbroker next,
Interesting. So how'd that transition go for you?
That was great. I mean, it was probably the toughest thing that I ever had to accomplish in my life, all the way up to me being 47 right now. It was one of the greatest challenges where at the time I was trying to get this license and transition from one business to the next. To get a Series 7 license and a Series 63, without having the college background and the schooling, my story as a kid, I got out of school from 8th grade to my senior year at 10:30. I had work experience. By the time I was 13 years old, I had 2 or 3 jobs making money and washing dishes and, working here and working there. So I just didn't have that sit down, take a test. So it took me 3 times to pass that. I had a lot of challenges because at the time I was kind of running out of money. I was going backwards. My lights were getting shut off. My car was behind. My house was behind. So,
But other than that, no pressure.
I had a lot of pressure. And the worst part of it was I failed it twice. The third time, if I didn't pass it the third time, I believe I had to wait almost a year in order to take it again. So I knew I had to pass it that third time, and I did. I passed it with a 70, exactly what I needed to hit in order to pass the test. And from there, the sky was the limit. I was able to get into a business, and it was kind of like Bud Fox, in the Wall Street. I was so persistent that I just didn't give up and had a lot of fun and traveled and got to meet some great clients and built a good business.
And now, and among the many things that you do, you are this large importer of Italian cheeses, which I thought sort of interesting. Of all the people I speak with that may have other businesses going on, yours is perhaps the most unique.
Well, it is, and I got to that, from the mortgage and real estate business. Prior to that, the food industry, I became very successful in the mortgage and real estate business here in Florida. I was the official mortgage company of the Heat, the Dolphins, the Marlins. I was on the radio constantly and built a big brand for myself known as the Main Man here in South Florida. And, had great success. But by 2007, the banks were going faster. They were going down so fast, that I had probably almost 150 employees in 5 offices in 2007. So I seen that I had to reinvent myself and getting into another industry because it was a sinking ship. And I decided to get in the food industry. It's a residual business. It was a relationship that I had from my father. And I opened the door, and I went into the door was open. I went into the plant, and I realized that they had a diamond in the rough. And
this is a plant in Italy or a plant here in the United States?
No, this is our plant in New Jersey
that makes Italian cheeses.
They bring in cheese from all over the world, and they sell it to all the big companies. From manufacturers to distributors. And I realized that it was something I don't know if I'd ever seen myself being a cheese salesman, but I seen the residual side about it, and it intrigued me. I've always been the one to go outside of the box when it comes to marketing. So I bought the phone number 1-800-BIG-CHEESE. I made a bobblehead of myself like Captain Morgan standing on a wheel of cheese. And I doubled that company in around 30 years. I doubled that company's revenues in 5 years by myself and my business manager who has been with me for a while. And I was able to generate more sales in 5 years than that company did in 30.
So what were you doing differently that they hadn't?
I branded it. They weren't a marketing company, so I was able to go to all the food shows. They never did a food show. I was able to do shows, and I designed the booth, and I put myself out in front of everybody. And even though it was a smaller mom pop type of company, it had a niche. It had a niche where there's only a handful of companies like this. So I seen that opportunity, and I said, well, I wonder if they ever had somebody like me in the food industry. And then when I realized that a lot of people in the food industry are just kind of laid back and not as aggressive as I was, I knew it was an opportunity that I would be able to build a great residual income in a short period of time by branding myself not only nationally, but I've branded the Big Cheese. That's my phone number, 1-800-BIG-CHEESE. I branded myself not only nationally, but internationally in almost 10 countries. So it was a lot of success. It was something that you kind of fall into. You take a leap of faith. But it was a big industry. We produce almost 12 billion pounds of cheese in the United States. That's crazy, right?
That's a lot of cheese.
That's a lot of cheese.
And among all that, you're the big cheese. That's.
Yeah. So I was able to build a brand for myself, and it was a lot of success. During that time, I decided I was traveling to many different countries. I always wanted to write a book. It was something that everybody talks about, but not many people do. And I started writing the book, and it took me a couple of years to finish it. And then I actually self-published it myself, and had a lot of great success with this book called The Sales Assassin: Master Your Black Belt in Sales,
Right.
which came out last July.
Right. So let's talk about it. So,
sure.
Where's the title come from? I mean, who's being killed in this whole thing?
Well, it's kind of, I know it's maybe not the best time with a title called The Sales Assassin, what's going on in the world today, but it's a different word. I mean, it's not the way people would think of an assassin where you're going out and killing somebody. Assassin, has a lot of traits. They have a certain set of skills. If you, so I knew I had these skills, and this came from when I was a kid. When I was 19 or 20, back in the health club business, I remember saying to myself, I'm not, somebody says, well, you're just a salesman. And I remember saying as a kid, and this is where the title came from, I remember saying, I'm not a salesperson. I'm a sales assassin. There's salespeople, and then there's sales assassins. I'm in a different league. So that title came from when I was a 19-year-old or 20-year-old kid, when I was in the health club industry, and also at that time studying martial arts, Kali Silat, Kung Fu, and different arts that I was involved in when I was young. So that's where that title came from.
So do you still practice martial arts?
I still do. I practice from time to time, not as aggressively as I used to. I was a kickboxer. I had my nose broke about 6 times. So I was young and I was aggressive. And, I grew up in a rough area. So going into a ring and, competing one-on-one, to me allowed me to, let's just say, not hang around the wrong people and get in trouble. Sure. And I had a lot of fun doing it, Competitive sports are amazing.
Yeah. So in the book, you've got this, it's a sort of unique trinity of sales success traits that you don't oftentimes read about in sales. I mean, one is passion. Right? I mean, it's so funny is especially in business to business spaces is rarely do you hear people talk about the passion for what they're selling, the passion for the job. It's it's a job they may be really excited about it, but passion doesn't really pay into it. So tell us about passion, how that plays a role in success.
I have 8 kids, 5 boys and 3 girls. So in life, not having a father and growing up with a mother that raised 3 kids in a tough neighborhood and had it really hard, I always realized that if I wanted to, go out there and be successful at anything I did, I had to have that drive and that passion. That passion was kind of in my blood. It's what drove me to wake up every single day and strive to be excellent. And no matter what I did, whether I was washing dishes at 13 years old or cutting yards, no matter what I did, I always had an enormous amount of passion of what I put into anything. So I constantly kept that up, realizing that that was one of my key traits, one of my successes in life was going to be my ability to be so passionate about what I do. And sometimes in sales, you don't have to try to sell something when it comes out of your pores and the buyer on that other side feels that there's so much excitement coming out of you that you really don't have to sell it. That's if you love what you do. So it's an old saying.
And the point being, it's not so much, and I think this is an interesting point for the audience to understand, is that it's not so much about passion for what you sell as much as you're saying passion for selling, passion for the act of what you're doing.
Well, it's important to, a little bit of both. You have to believe in what you're doing and also in what you're selling. But you have to have passion that's got to come from inside you before it can come out about your product or your service. You have to be able to believe in yourself and have enough passion inside of you that people feel it. It was a great story one day. One of my 8 kids, Stephen, he came home, and I'm not a technical guy. All these millennials are.
I think we discovered that.
Yeah, we discovered that. And he came up to me and he started telling me about why I should buy an Apple and, not have my Dell. And he started talking to me and selling me on all the unbelievable, features of this Apple computer. And I looked at him when he was done and I said, Stephen, I just want you to know that's what selling is all about. That even if you're not in sales, okay, everybody in my mind somehow, some way is in sales, no matter what
absolutely.
You do.
Right.
So you're always in sales somehow, some way. But at that moment, I realized that he could probably quit his job and go work for Apple and probably sell more computers than anybody else because it was just coming out of him, the excitement about all these features and this exciting new things about this computer. It was amazing just to sit back and to listen. And that's what I do when I'm out. And I've trained thousands of salespeople, not hundreds, thousands of salespeople. And I've learned from a lot of them. And I always know the ones that are going to become the greatest and the ones that are going to make the best and get to the top have that certain inner passion that's in them. And that's what this book is about. The first chapter is passion, dedication, and courage. I call it PDC. I say it's the holy trinity of success, not only in sales, but also in life. So passion, dedication, and courage is what gets us to that level that we all want to be at. The question is, do you have it inside of you, and can you keep it constantly growing year after year after year to be able to stay in your business and constantly have success? Because once you lose that passion and that dedication and that courage to get ahead and to go outside of the box, I don't think you'll find somebody that becomes successful without it.
Well, let's talk about courage because, I mean, this is a word that's thrown around pretty lightly, right? I mean, we know that courage, certainly people that are, war fighters in our armies, our militaries, I mean, certainly courage there to go put themselves on the line every day. People defend public safety, but where does it come in sales?
Well, it's not only in sales. It's in any business or anything that we do in life where we all want to accomplish something. We want to be great at what we do. I believe most people want to become successful no matter what they do. They want to become the best. They want to strive for excellence. So where does courage come from? Everybody, there's a lot of people that don't take the risks in life because they're afraid of failure. But I always tell people, you have to have 20 seconds of insane courage every day, every minute, all day long. And you have to do what other people aren't willing to do. There's a saying I have about courage. If you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. So let me say that again. If you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. So what does that mean? That means unless you actually have some courage to do something different and take that leap of faith and sometimes a little bit of risk, kind of like I did in the food industry. Okay, did I know I was going to become successful and become the number one Italian big cheese salesman in the world? Probably not. I didn't realize that in the beginning, but I had the courage that if I was going to start it and I was going to do it, I was going to become the best at it. And it didn't happen overnight. And there was failures in the beginning where, I realized that the sales cycle took so much longer than what I was used to. Sometimes my sales cycle was taking 6 months to a year to a year and a half. But I had to have that courage to stay in the game, to not quit, to not give up. So that's really what people need. They need that courage, and they have to realize that failure and success, they go hand in hand. You can't have great success without having some failures. And unless you're willing to fail, in my opinion, most people aren't going to succeed in life.
So the courage, really, if we were to sum it up in a way for people to really conceptualize, to say, look, I have the courage to fail, courage to take a risk.
No doubt about it. And I motivate people all the time, even some of the people that I mentor that I'm doing right now into my own businesses. Unless they're willing to take a leap of faith and have some courage and realize it is okay to fail. I'm not afraid to say on your show right now, I failed many times.
Oh, me too.
But without those failures and without having those life lessons of failures, would I really succeed into what I wanted to do for the rest of my life? I believe those failures made me stronger. They made me who I am today. And I'm not afraid to go into anything and fail, because failure's sometimes just part of the game, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about some of the additional, your 9 belts of sales assassin mastery, which had some good points in that one I liked was you're talking about mental preparedness development. And again, it's sort of a personal bias of mine in favor of that. So you talk about being prepared to learn how to learn and releasing blockages. So what did you mean by that? How do people prepare themselves to learn how to learn?
That's I enjoy this chapter a lot because being prepared is really how a lot of people become successful. The problem is some people aren't willing to do and try and take in new things. So let me sum it up by saying, well, I'm in Florida right now. So let me tell you something that I think might sum it up. Sales is kind of like alligator-filled swamps, right? That we basically go through these swamps, trying to not get eaten up by the alligators, right? That's
You
the
choose
object.
to live there, by the way.
I know, but we
Okay.
try to not get eaten by alligators in sales, right? But sometimes you have to know how to navigate through those swamps in order to not get eaten. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that you have to take in sales or in really any business, you have to be able to open up to new concepts and new ideas. So you know how to navigate through those swamps so you don't get eaten by those alligators. If you're not taking in new concepts and new ideas, not on a daily basis, I mean, you have to do it all the time. It's not something that you wake up and say, okay, I'm going to read a book about sales today, or I'm going to go about and maybe do a motivational meeting, or go to a sales meeting. The ones that become great, they constantly train their mind. They prepare their mind for what's going to happen, when they're going into that sales meeting and that buyer goes ahead and hits them with something that he doesn't know how to come back and react. They have to actually train themselves to prepare for all kinds of new concepts and ideas in order to be successful. So when that moment comes, when you have to navigate through, the alligator-filled swamps, you're on it. Okay, you know exactly what to say, how to say it, because you took the time to prepare yourself and prepare your mind for what it takes to become successful.
All right. So in this mental preparation, you have 5 steps you list. And one, you talk about mind conditioning. So what did you mean by mind conditioning?
Well, mind conditioning is what I'm telling you. You have to condition your mind to take in ideas and concepts. And most people, they have these mental blocks where they just can't accept new things. They just don't go out there and constantly condition their mind. It's kind of like training. If you're
Isn't some of it tied to physical conditioning and to some degree?
There's no doubt about it. I believe, that if you mentally take care of yourself and you mentally condition your mind, okay, and I'm going to get into that with like an athlete. That's where I was going next. That if you constantly, aren't training all the time, not conditioning yourself, if you're a runner and you're not stretching and automatically you want to go start running a 200 or 400 meter run and you're not stretching, you're going to wind up getting a cramp. So you have to basically constantly condition your mind to become successful. Well, you tell your mind, that you're going to be successful. You're conditioning it, to get to that point where you feel like you're getting yourself ahead. But most people don't take time to condition their mind, and they don't take time to condition their body too. I believe physical, if you take care of yourself and you put things in your body, that helps you also, and it helps your mind become stronger as well. You have to know how to eat right. You have to know how to exercise. And if you're going to condition your mind, you might as well condition your body to help it.
And you then talk about visualization, which I'm a huge believer in visualization in sales. That you're getting into a situation, sales situation on a call, you got an important meeting, a negotiation. Take a few minutes and just sort of visualize, close your eyes, visualize what you think will happen.
That's always been something that I've always enjoyed in my life. I've enjoyed to, just like you said, close my eyes and see the target and see what I need to do, to be able to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish out of life, not only in sales, but in life. Visualization, I believe, is very important. When a person gets up and they want to go hit a baseball and they're in the game and they know there's 2 outs right now, the bases are loaded and they're down right now. They visualize themselves hitting that grand slam. They see it, and I believe visualizing that in sales is no different than visualizing that whether you're in sports or whether you're in boxing or, whatever, whether you're golfing, it really doesn't matter. You have to see yourself being successful. See yourself going into that meeting, and knowing that you're standing out in a crowd, So visualization is very important, for belief.
And then you talk about developing mental trust. So what do you mean by mental trust? Is that just a faith in your own abilities?
Yeah, you gotta be able to trust yourself. You got to be able to trust your abilities to go out there and do what you practiced. If you don't trust within yourself and you don't believe in yourself, I mean, how do you really think about that? If you don't trust in yourself, how do people trust in you? How do they believe in you if you really don't have that belief? I mean, I've sat with many people that have tried to sell me things, and I can pretty much right away, I can tell whether they have some belief and trust in them by the way they're speaking and the way they're talking and how they're presenting it. I could feel it right away. So I always want to work with somebody that has that trust in themselves, that they believe in what they're doing, they believe in their product, they believe in their service, but more importantly, they also believe in themselves.
Yeah, well, as you said, I think people in general, we're very perceptive if we're paying attention at all of the way of other people, right? As you said, you've been on the receiving end of sales calls. You understand when someone, isn't really in the game the way they need to be in the game. And believe me, prospects, customers, they all feel it. So you have to
They
you
can
have to be
feel it.
committed.
It's an emotion. I mean, this book was written completely for the emotional side, what I call the inner sales journey. Okay, I take you on an inner sales journey, a path, to becoming successful, not from the outside in, from the inside out. And what do I mean by that? Anybody can teach you how to sell a product or service, but how many great companies out there, or even great teachers or mentors? Because I believe it's never the student, it's always the teacher. How many of them actually spend time teaching you how to be great from the inside out? What it takes where people can feel that. When I go into a room or I'm doing a speaking convention or a sales seminar, they can feel it coming out of me. And that's what people want. They want to feel that passion and that excitement and that belief. They don't want to be sold. This isn't the 70s and the 80s, where it's ABC, always be closing. People want they want somebody sincere. They want to have belief that what they're selling them and what they're telling them, is the truth. So when you're selling, you're really selling yourself. You're selling that belief in yourself. And I think that's the most important thing nowadays. People really want to know. They want to know about your product and service, but they want to know that you believe in that product and service, as much as you're selling it. And it's very important.
Got it. Good point. In this segment of the show, last segment, I posed some standard questions to all my guests, Anthony. And the first one's a hypothetical scenario that in the scenario, you, Anthony, have just been hired as the VP of sales at a company whose sales have sort of stalled out. Perhaps not unlike the cheese company. And the CEO is anxious to get sales unstuck and back on track. And, you've got to start your sales turnaround somewhere. So what two things would you do your first week on the job that could have the biggest impact?
Well, I mean, the first thing that I would do is take a look at how they're marketing the product based on pricing and who you're competing with out there. There's a reason why sales start to slump. Okay, so you have to really know your market and understand exactly how to sell your product. See, you can be great at selling your product, but you also got to be great at marketing your product. The second thing that I would focus on would be who's the leaders. Okay, the problem sometimes in sales, and especially with corporations, I've always seen, that sometimes they can have a great product, a great service, a great price. They can have everything right there. But the problem is they don't have the right leaders. And without the right leaders, sales forces always go backwards. See, salespeople are the ones that are in the trenches. We're the front line. And I always say that to every corporation that I go to. As much as there's a lot of people that are important in the organization to succeed, okay, and you have to have the back end, you have to have the front end, you have to have the product, but sales is what makes everything move. Without somebody going out there and selling their product, without somebody hitting the street and being in the trenches to grow that business, it'll always go backwards. I've seen many companies over my years in sales that had great concepts, great products, and they really should have blown up as a company. The problem is sometimes it starts from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
The CEO and the people at the top have to realize the most important thing in that company is when they got that product and they got everything right, okay, they have to find the right leaders. It's the leaders that make companies. Companies sometimes don't make leaders, and that's always a problem that I've seen in the industry, that you have to have somebody, I would call them the ultimate sales assassin. That one individual or several individuals who are constantly motivating and training and not only speaking about it, but actually going out and doing it themselves. Many corporations, Andy, they have sales directors and sales managers. Okay, they have all these titles. But the people have to be able to respect those people. And the salespeople, they want leaders. They want to follow. Okay, they want somebody who can motivate them to go out there and build that business, to become successful so they can generate those revenues and those commissions. And without those proper leaders, you'll find companies will always go backwards, no matter how good their product is or how good their service is or how good their pricing is. They'll always go backwards without finding great leaders.
Okay. Look good. Good answer. So now we've got some rapid fire questions. You can give me one-word answers or you can elaborate if you wish. The first one is, when you, Anthony, are out selling your products or services, when you personally are selling, what's your most powerful sales attribute?
Oh, I would say probably the most important. If you're not remembered, then you're forgotten.
So you're
So
memorable.
you have to have a lasting impression about yourself. Because not every time are you going to actually sell the deal immediately, okay? So you have to be remembered, and I always say that if you're not remembered, you're forgotten. So if you leave that meeting, okay, what is it that made that person want to call you back or follow back up with you? So when you do that follow up, they take your call. They engage with you to try to get the sale. You see, I believe there's two words, and this is I guess I'm going to use this too. Not only as far as getting people to remember you, but I believe these two words, silent and listen, are the most important two words that you're going to have in your sales arsenal. Because if you look at this word silent and listen, did you notice that they're both spelled with the same letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know when sometimes how to shut up and listen, to be able to load your gun, to be able to have all that ammunition. So it's very important people do that as well. They have to know how to be silent, and they have to know how to listen. Very important.
Okay. Who's your sales role model?
My sales role model, well, I would have to be my mentor when I was a young kid who kind of molded me to what I am today, Al Phillips, who was probably the toughest person that you could ever imagine. I mean, he was so tough that you were feared not to have results. And I know maybe that's not the greatest thing to say, but when I got on that conference call at 19 years old, 18 years old, and they would ask me what my numbers were at the end of the night, I was afraid not to have good numbers, because he would tell me, he was an English guy, and he'd tell me, why don't you just shut the door and throw away the keys, because we can't pay the bills. Okay? You stink. You suck. And I know that's not the way you should train people, but I'll tell you what, that training and that fear of not being successful and not being able to give him the answers that I wanted, the results that I know he was looking for, is what motivated me from when I was 18 or 19 years old, and still motivates me. The fire is still burning today at 47 years old, just like it was when I was 18, because I know there's a lot of accountability for me, and I still have that same fear of not succeeding and not being able to get the results that I want for myself.
Sure.
So so I'd have to say Al Phillips was my mentor.
Al Phillips. So other than your own book, what's one book every salesperson should read?
Well, there's a lot of books out there. Brian Tracy's book.
Well, you get one. You get one.
Huh?
You get one choice.
I get one choice. So let me think what book that I would say. I would have to go back to when I was younger, even probably before little Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar. I'm trying to remember the title on that book. I'll do that in a second. But it was definitely one of Zig Ziglar's books.
All right, one of Zig Ziglar's. All right. So last question for you is, what music's on your playlist these days?
I'm an Andre Pacelli guy.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I like Andre Pacelli. It calms me down. It relaxes me. I enjoy the music. One of my best,
Excellent. All right. Well, good. Well, Anthony, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Tell folks how they can find out some more about you.
Well, you can go to theSalesAssassin.com. But if you really want to get a lot of my motivational quotes and a lot of my concepts and ideas every day, we put these out every day. So you can go on to my LinkedIn, my Facebook, or my Twitter and follow me every day. And you'll get a lot of great results from that as well.
All right. Good. Well, again, thanks for being on the show. And remember, friends, make it a part of your day every day to deliberately learn something new to help you accelerate your success. And one easy way to do that is to make this podcast accelerate a part of your daily routine, whether you're listening on your commute, in the gym, or as part of your morning sales meeting. That way you won't miss any of my conversations with top business experts like my guest today, Anthony Caliendo, who shared his expertise about how to accelerate the growth of your business. So thanks for joining me, and until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. If you like what you heard and want to make sure you don't miss any upcoming episodes, please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or Stitcher.com. For more information about today's guest, visit my website at andypaul.com.